I was a child, I always used to listen to the songs and the stories on television. And, at the age of about 4 or 5 years old, there you were. And every week, they used to put on the same story. So I'm no different these days. I like to talk about the same stories again and again because they're so profound, they're so deep, and they can produce some interesting side effects if you go deeply into them. So this day, I would like to talk about the perfect thief. We've heard this all before. We know about the perfect thief. The perfect thief was so famous that everybody in the whole country wanted to get their stuff stolen by him. The perfect thief. Everybody used to like to have him come to their house so he could steal things from them. In a way, he's a bit like the perfect master. The perfect master is one who steals the energy blockages from his students. He goes into their bodies and he purloins all their deep, dark, evil energy blockages and makes them into perfect people. But there was one thing that was wrong in the life of the perfect thief, and this was his son. His son was lazy, he was lying in bed, he wasn't doing anything, whereas the perfect thief, the master, was the most famous guy in the whole country. And one day, the son came to the father and he said, "Father, Father, I'm sick of lying in bed. I too want to become the perfect thief." And the father was overjoyed. He said, my son, come with me tonight. I'll show you the ropes, I'll show you what to do, and you will be like me, the perfect thief." And so, that night, they went out into the city, and they went to a big house, and the perfect thief took every brick out of the wall and made a big hole to go through, and they both went into the house, and the perfect thief said to his son, "Shh, they're upstairs, in bed." And as they were passing through the hallway, they came across a big well, and it was bottomless, very deep. And the perfect master said, "Son, be very careful with this well because you could fall down and kill yourself." And as they went past into the big room, they came to a big cupboard, and the perfect master opened the door and he said, "Son, go inside the cupboard." The son said, "What? I have to go inside the..." He said, "Yes, go inside the cupboard." So I said, "Okay, you want me to be the perfect thief? You're teaching me what to do? I'm going inside the cupboard." The perfect master closed the doors, locked the door, and ran as hard as he could out of the house. And as he did though, he made a terrible racket, and everybody upstairs in the house started to get up and say, "The thief! The thief! The thief! Where's the thief?" And they came down the stairs and they saw the hole in the wall and they said, "The thief! The thief! He's there, he's out of the house, where is he?" And they went into the room where the cupboard was, and inside the cupboard, the son of the perfect thief was going, "Ah! Woo!" And as they went past the cupboard, the son of the perfect thief had an idea, and he said, "Meow, meow, meow." And outside the cupboard, they said, the cat's locked in the cupboard. Let's let him out. So they unlocked the door, they opened the cupboard, and the son of the perfect thief came out. He came out, and he came out of the room, and he went past the well. As he went past the well, he got a big stone, a big thing, and he threw it down the well, and there was a splosh. And he went out of the house, and he went down the road, And he got out. And in the house, the people heard the splosh in the well, and they said, he's fallen down the well. He's fallen down. Let's leave him there till morning. And if he's dead, that's good. And if he's alive, we'll take him out and we'll prosecute him to the full extent of the law. And so they all went to bed and everything was good. And the son went back to the house of the father, and he went up, he was angry. He went up to see the father. He said, Father, Father, what have you been doing? What have you done? Why did you do that? And the father smiled on his face. He said, my son, you have passed the test. Now I know you have the same genes as me, and you will go on to become the perfect thief, because you know what to do. So, this is a story that was told by Jalaluddin Rumi, the Persian Shakespeare, the equivalent of the Buddha, of Jesus Christ in Persia. Why would he tell this parable? Why would he tell this story filled with so much meaning? Because who is the Father? Is it our Father who art in heaven? Hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done. Thy kingdom come in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Is it that Father, our Father? And who is the Son? Who is the Son? Who is the Son of the Father? You know, you're up there in heaven, and the Father says, well, looks like it's time for your next reincarnation. It's time for you to go down to earth. And metaphorically, he takes the person and places that person down on earth, and he puts him into a sort of a cupboard. Now, you could say this cupboard is a jail, a carcel, a place where a person is imprisoned. And you know, you're there in the body of a baby and you're going wah, 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 and you're brought up by your jailers, you know, your mother and your father, and you're in the prison of all of their ideas, and there they teach you this imprisonment of ideas. And then you go to school and they say, well, you can't run around, you've got to sit here at this desk. And you say, well, why? And you've got to learn all of these things, and you say, well, why? And then they teach you all of these things. And then they teach you to read. And they say, well, you know, you can either come to school or you can read the books. And in every book, there's this prison of ideas, of the way you're supposed to live and what you're going to do. And you know, human beings are infinitely programmable. They're so naive, they will believe anything that they are told. They'll believe this book. They'll believe that book. They'll believe CNN. They'll believe MSNBC. And you know, MSNBC is not sort of a sort of impartial news. It's Microsoft NBC. Yeah? And all of these books are written by hacks. What is a hack? It's a prostitute. It's a person who's been bought to tell tales to you that you will believe. So you'll be calm while they do the operation on you, while they steal everything that you've got, to keep you calm, to placate you, to not understand the way the world really is. And thus, everybody in the whole world is lying in bed. And the Buddha said, you are lying in bed and the house is burning down around you. You need to understand the urgency of the situation. If you want this world to improve, the only people who have improved this world are the people that have not gone along with the majority. Original thinkers, people who do not believe the ideas of the status quo. Now, you will go on lying in bed. You will go on lying to yourself. You will go on reading all of these books that tell you the way to live. Until, finally, you get up out of bed and you go to your father and you say, I want to take up the family profession. I want to be the perfect thief. I too want to steal the energy blockages of my students. I too want to make humanity perfect. I too want to become a good man. And there's a reason why they call God, God. It's a diminution of the word good. I want to become good. And you'll never do that by reading the books. You'll never do that by following the majority of people. I was just reading about Jane Austen today. You know, she was the one that wrote Sense and Sensibility. She was the one that wrote Emma. She was the one that told the life of a normal girl in England wanting to get married to the right person, following the biological imperative. And yet, she didn't know what was going on around her. I mean, she came over as a really intelligent and nice young lady, and she was writing what she knew, and wow, very good indeed. And yet, when they took a lock of her hair, they found out it was filled with arsenic. And she died after a long, long illness at the age of 41. She didn't realize that around her were people who were jealous of her beauty and her intelligence and her writing these beautiful novels. She was living a lie. And she died because of her lack of knowledge. And throughout England these days there are people that study Jane Austen, they get firsts at university, and they follow the Jane Austen programming, looking for Mr. Darcy, marrying the right person, following the biological imperative, just following on what this idiot wrote in her books. Because she didn't know what was going on. She didn't know the truth. And this is what Osho has to say on the subject. He says, never give in. Don't give in. Live your life, whatsoever it brings. If sometimes it brings conflict, then that is needed. Then storm is also needed. The storm is needed as much as silence. Anger is needed as much as compassion. Life needs all polarities. And then the miracle happens. When the other person starts feeling that you are true, then by and by, through that respect, through that love, conflict drops. When you love a person, when you respect a person, when you see the person is true and authentic, there is less and less conflict. Between two false persons, there is always conflict. Conflict is a consequence of two false persons being together. when two true persons live together, conflict by and by disappears because they start understanding each other. And there is never confusion. There is no possibility of any confusion. Everything is clear, transparent. The conflict by and by disappears. Without risking any of your inner harmony, the conflict disappears. And then you and the other are also in harmony. But the first step is inner harmony with yourself. Only then can you be in harmony with others, otherwise not. If you have not attained an inner harmony, how can you attain the outer? The basic thing is missing. The question is from King. He can become a very authentic person, hence the question. He knows where he is missing. His question is not just intellectual. I understand. I have looked into this very deeply. This is his problem. King, you have to drop it. You have to be true. And whatsoever the cost is, you have to pay it. Life has to be paid for. Each single moment of beauty, of joy, has to be paid for enormously. It is not free. It has to be earned. To do one's thing under constant threat takes the joy out of it. Certainly, it creates misery. That's why so many people are miserable in the world. It is very rare to come across a person who is happy, because it is very rare to come across a person who has lived authentically, who has lived rebelliously, who has lived his own life, and who has not bothered to make any compromise. To compromise is to poison your being. Never compromise. It is better to die than to compromise. Die if need be, but die uncompromised. Then you are unpolluted, unpoisoned. Then you are in beauty. Then you have dignity. You will have the same dignity as Jesus had when he was crucified. What was he doing, this man? Why were people so angry with him? The Son of the Father, the Son of Man, the Son of God. He was trying to live his life. That was his crime. That has always been the crime. What was Socrates doing? Why were people so angry with him? He was trying to live his life. These miserable people cannot tolerate any happy person. These miserable people are so deep in misery that any happy person creates great jealousy, creates great restlessness in their being. They cannot tolerate it. The very presence of a happy and a rebellious person shows them how unreal they are. The happy, the true person becomes a comparison. I am not saying that by relaxing, by accepting your being, by being in a Taoist attitude, you will not have any misery. I am not saying that. You will be happy. You will have much pain, and you will have to suffer many sufferings, but still, you will be happy. And all those sufferings will add to your taste. They will give salt to your life. I am not saying that the path is full of roses. There are thorns. They always come with the roses. Wherever you find one rose, you will find 100 thorns. But still, I say, go for the roses. The thorns have to be suffered, but it is worth it. Those roses are so valuable that the suffering is nothing. If you want to avoid the thorns, you will never have roses. That's what you have been doing, King, up till now. You have been avoiding the thorns, so you are missing the roses. They always come together. You will be miserable, and only miserable. Your misery will be empty misery. Jesus also goes through the pain, but his pain is full of joy. That is the difference. 3 people were crucified on that same day. 2 thieves were also crucified. The thieves! The thieves! They were both crying and weeping, but Jesus was silent. And the people were throwing stones and saying ugly things and insulting Jesus as much as they could. But Jesus was silent. As silent as if nothing was happening. One of the thieves became interested. That was rare. He was crying and weeping, and he was not being insulted. Nobody cared about him. The whole insult was directed towards Jesus. And then he heard Jesus saying to God, Father, forgive these people because they don't know what they are doing. And when the thief heard this, he could not believe his ears. He said, so it seems you really are the Son of God. Bless me before you go. And Jesus said, don't be worried. You will be with me in the company of God, in the kingdom of God today. And in that moment of illumination, in that moment of understanding, the thief became transformed and he died silently. And a peace surrounded him. He was happy to die with Jesus. He became part of Jesus. Then he did not cry. Then death didn't matter. Then he was moving into a deeper and a higher life. And the other thief was crying and weeping and also dying. Both the thieves were dying, but in a different way. One was simply dying, another had a vision of a higher life. One's misery was empty, the other's misery was full of joy. This is the difference between people. They are miserable people, painful people, whose misery is empty for nothing. And there are tremendously happy people who are very rare. They also suffer. Sometimes they suffer more than other people because they never avoid anything. They go headlong into things. King, do your thing and do it truly. Never compromise. Never compromise with anybody, not even with God. No compromise. You be yourself. That is the only prayer there is. So, there is the Father, there is the Son. And the Son comes down from heaven and he's born into all of these false matrices. You know, the Matrix. You're lying there in a pool of water, in a sort of a thing, and there's all these tubes all over your body and you're being drained of all of your energy through these tubes. And instead of living in the world where your body is, you're being transformed by a computer into a false artificial environment. And there you live. A totally false life. You're living in a daydream. You're living in a false world. You are lying in bed and the house is burning down around you. And one day, after a little bit of investigation, you'll get up out of that bed and you'll go to your Father and you will say, Father, I want to be just like you. I too want to be the perfect thief. I want to steal the fire from heaven. I want to bring it down to earth, just like Prometheus. And I want to have that fire stolen from me by all of my students. And every night, I want to be tossed down the mountain with a stone and have my liver eaten out by birds. And every day I want to bring that stone back onto the top of the mountain. The myth of Prometheus is the myth of every person who says, I want to wake up. I want to become the perfect thief. I want to steal the fire from heaven. And I want to bring it down to the earth and give it to everybody on this planet. To do that, you need to be true. And when Pontius Pilate asked Jesus Christ, what is the truth? Jesus Christ said nothing. He was silent. Because that silence is meditation. And that silence is that silence is climbing up the infinite chakras above the head to the soul, to the monad, to the logos, to Sirius, to the avatar of synthesis, to an infinity of chakras above the head, ending in the fire of God. Every time we meditate, we climb up those chakras into the infinite energy fusion power above the head. Every time we meditate, we climb down into the fission center of the earth, where a lump of uranium miles wide burns at the same temperature as the sun. We connect with infinite energies external to the body. And as we climb up the infinite chakras above our heads into the infinite fiery fusion power, an infinity of chakras above the head, we become like Prometheus, and we take the fire of God and we bring it down onto the earth, and there we radiate that infinite power out into the world to change ourselves, to change our students, to change humanity. And the goodness, the godness of that energy so drives out everything which is evil in humanity, that eventually all humanity will become good. The myth of Prometheus going up to steal the fire of the gods and bring it down to earth and give it to humanity, and for which a crime Zeus, Deus, God, in the Greek myths, consigned to war, sentenced Prometheus to carry a big rock up a mountain every day, and at night to have the rock fall down to the bottom of the mountain, and for Prometheus to have his liver eaten out by a great bird every night. Drawing water, hewing wood, before enlightenment, and after enlightenment, drawing water, hewing wood, bringing that big stone to the top of the mountain every day, and to have your liver eaten out by the critics every night. Meditating, climbing up into the fire of the gods, radiating that aura of pure gold out into the world, bringing that fire to everybody that you meet. Hari Om Tat Sat.